All right, welcome to part 3 of the inventory component system. What we have so far is we set up, we've started setting up the inventory. We have the widget, we have the item that we can pick up, and it gets added to the inventory. That's pretty much it. So let's just pick up where we left off. Start adding stuff. So first and foremost, I just want to make it a little bit nicer by giving us a pickup sound. So let's go into our inventory component, into the event graph. We can do a custom event. So what you could do, depending if you want to or not, in our master character, when we pick up an item, so we don't want to do this because we want to make it a little bit nicer, because we don't want any logic in our character to make it easier for you to integrate this to our actual projects. So to our actual different projects. So you don't want to be adding like a bunch of logic to your character and stuff. Instead, we want to go into our inventory component. We want to create a function called f add item to inventory. And what we do is we get our inventory here instead, and we add sorry, not here. It's when we pick up, right? F add item here, yeah. Okay, so you don't want to do this, is what I mean. We're gonna need this event, that's inevitable. I think, let me just see if we can reference this from our master item. Get in them. No, because we don't know. We could maybe do this. Let me pause 1 second and see if we can skip that function entirely. 1 second. Actually, I don't even need to pause. I think we can actually do this. If we go into our inventory component, and instead, because we have the interface here, so perhaps we could just go to class settings in our component and add the inventory interface here, and go straight from the so if we implement that interface in the actor, so the actor is going to need the interface still, but no, I'm just thinking, can I okay, maybe we can do it like this. In the component, we don't even need the interface, it looks like. So we can just remove the interface again. No, make sure to press no here. And in our inventory component, we have this function, add item to inventory. let's do a here. Change this to master item, object reference. And from there, we get the class like this, and we add it to the inventory. And here, we're gonna get this get component by class. We're gonna get the inventory component, and we're gonna add item like this. Let's see if this works. Because then we actually bypass this entire function. As I said, you don't want any logic in your character, you just want to be able to add the inventory component with as little logic as possible in your actual character. Let's see if that works. It does indeed work. So remove this function, add item. So the only function that we actually have here is this, for now at least. So we can actually add the item. That's really good. And what you could also do here is you play a sound, which is a pickup sound. So I just have a generic pickup sound. So that works. And depending on if you want it to be replicated or not, I'm just gonna do that. So I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna bring this, I'm gonna remove that, and I'm gonna do a custom event called server pickup, not server play sound. And then I'm gonna do another custom event called MC for multicast. So when it comes to sounds and one-off events, we want to do multicast RPCs, multi-procedure calls, and they have to be called on the server. So first we call it on the server. So from the server, we make sure that we go to the server. So we first do a server event, which runs on the server. From the server, we call a multicast event, which is the play sound. And on the multicast, we play sound at location. In this case, we're gonna pass over the sound. So what happens here is the client interacts with something, tells the server where that is. The server then tells all the other clients where it is, if they are close enough. So the multicast is good for one-off events. We're probably gonna do a bunch of rep notifiers later as well. It's hard. I'm not gonna go too much into explaining it. It is a fairly advanced tutorial, but basically, when it comes to replication in our inventory here, when we add the item, if we just play the sound here, it just gets played on the client because we are running on a client. So what we do instead is we do server play sound. So this is the client. Imagine this is the client here. It could also be the server, but most of the times you're going to be playing as the client, unless you are hosting. So the client tells what sound, we tells the server what sound and where we pick this up. We're going to get the static mesh, we're going to get the word location, and that's where we're going to play the sound. And so the client tells the server what sound to play, and so that's the server event. And then we have a multicast, and what multicast do is they relay the information to all clients that are close enough to be relevant for the network. But it has to be called from the server. We can't just call a multicast event here because it has to run on the server. So if we call the multicast event here, it would only work if we were playing as the server, which we can do it sometimes, but most of the times here we're gonna be playing as the client. So you can still hear it picks up. I'm not sure if you hear the audio, but it works at least. There we go, but it's standalone, so let's see, play as client. Consider it's actually not working as the client, and that might be because components don't replicate. I'm not entirely sure. It might be that we actually can't play events, replicated events from components. Let me Google that. 1 second. All right, I am back. So, some tiny changes we made while experimenting. So in our add item to inventory, you want to get this node called switch as authority. So what this does is tells if we are playing as the server or as a client, pretty much. So when playing, you have this standalone, listen server, and as client. And what the listen server does is the listen server is both a server and a client playing. So if you are the host of the game, you are the server, and people connect to you. In that case, your client pretty much acts as the server. So if we have authority, we can just call this function instantly because we are already on the server. But if we are not the server, we need to call the server play sound if we are a remote client. Both are the item pickup. If we don't really want to do this, to be honest, for some reason multicasts from component does not work unless we actually make them reliable. It might be that I'm just missing something here, but it works when I do them reliable. So we're just gonna do that for now. But we're also gonna do our first setting because we want to make this a very modular and set up and so that you can actually specify however you want it. So we're gonna make a bool called replicate pick up sound. So we're gonna do a bool. I'm gonna drag it in. And if it's false, we're just going to do item pickup. So if replicate pickup sound is false, we're just going to place on 2D. And if it's not false, which means it's true, then we're going to do the replication. So that depends on how much you want to save on server performance. Since this is reliable, it means it will fire every time. So if you have millions of items to pick up, it will fire every time. So that might not be the most optimal thing for the server or the network to handle. On this, we're gonna set instance is editable, and we're gonna save. So in our master character, we should now be able to exactly. So in the defaults, we can now see here that we have the replicate pickup sound. So this is now a setting if you want the sound to replicate or not. So in our inventory components, we are also going to go to the inventory. Can we do this? No. We're gonna set it to private. There we go. So when the inventory is private, we're gonna set both of these to private, both the inventory and the widget inventory. Because now in our character, when we press the component, we only have this replicate sound, pickup sound, because that's the only thing we want to be able to modify here. So let's see if it still works. And everything still seems to work. So that's nice. And in our inventory component, we're also going to add a tooltip here called there we go. Just so we remember, and this is also for people that get the component later. We're gonna have it on by default. So now in our master character, we can go to our components. We can see replicate pickup sound. Once we hold over it, disable to save on network performance, we can see the tiny tooltip there. Here we go. How far in are we? 17 minutes. This video series is pretty much its own documentation for this also. I'm gonna pull them from above just to make it a little bit clearer. What's happening? There we go. What else can we do? Yeah, I think that's gonna be it for this video. It's already 17 minutes. So we're gonna pause this one here, keep the videos short, and we will pick up in the next video. As always, thanks for watching, and let me know in the comments if you have any questions. Bye!